Bat Lunch break again. Probably most of you haven't noticed, but I missed it for 2 weeks, and I didn't get to talk about all these Batman Eternals, and Batman Eternal is what inspired me to start doing weekly Batman-based videos, also inspired by Joshua Hayes. Roger over in Puerto Rico seems to be doing weekly videos focusing on Batman Eternal, along with a lot of other cool videos that Roger's doing lately, like Doomed, and I think he's covering the Future's End, maybe in chunks. But anyway, and I'm very disorganized, and it's harder to discuss these 3 very varied issues all together. Although maybe issues 13 and 14 kind of go together to an extent, because they see the fruition of the gang war plot line and the conclusion or seeming conclusion of the war between Falcone and the Penguin. Love this picture of the Penguin with the Batman shadow there. That's a classic comic book cover. So it was Lieutenant Baird's, I keep wanting to call him Bard, Baird's plan. No, it is Bard. Bard's plan. I keep wanting to call him Baird for some reason. Lieutenant Bard's plan worked, and they have captured Falcone and the Penguin. It seems more like it was a setup on the Penguin, and Falcone was an afterthought almost. It was still very clever, but I kind of wanted something focused more tightly on Falcone. I wanted to see Falcone really suffer, although it was nice to see the Penguin go after him and become kind of badass. But, distracted myself. But so that was cool. I'm finding that with all these cool threads that they've got, at times they set me up for thinking there's going to be some greater complexities than there are. So, like in issue 12, it must have been when Bard got a meeting with Batman and Bullock and some other people, and he said, "You have to let us catch you, and then I can end this gang war." That was a bit of a red herring, because they did not catch Batman. That was not the plan. The plan was to be trying to catch Batman, but actually catch Falcone's men and claim they were working for Batman, to work around the commissioner's rule that you can't catch the gang members right now. You got to focus on catching Batman. And that set into play a whole series of things where they could pin stuff on Falcone, I guess, and at the same time did some dirty work to set up the Penguin. But then what comes out of that is an interesting new thread because the Penguin killed a lot of people because of the information that Bard leaked to him. So where Batman is telling Bard that this isn't the way I work, and I'm disappointed in you, and I don't think we can work together, where Bard is revealed as maybe not being so much like Commissioner Gordon as we thought. Love the Jason Fabok artwork in this issue, but this was kind of a classic Batman scene, and a nice kind of moral interplay, and each person having their own shade of gray, you might say, of how they handle crime. And certainly Batman won't kill people, but he has no problem bludgeoning them seriously. So I consider him in a shade of gray. But then Bard is in a darker shade of gray. But he seems to be against crime. But it does make me wonder now. We got 60 issues. We've done 15 of them. What Bard's continued evolution is going to be, or continued revelations about Bard. I'm speculating on all kinds of things. He could go through a kind of arc of becoming a good cop. He could become a really bad cop. He could prove to be something else entirely. We still have a mystery as to who is the real mastermind behind pushing this fall of Batman that Falcone was piggybacking on. The fall of Commissioner Gordon. Is that all the same person, all the same thing? So really interesting stuff set up, but maybe raising my expectations for clever twists that may not be quite as clever, like with the capturing of Falcone. But still really fun, and this is all these kind of threads on a weekly basis are so fun to read, because although these issues include the downfall of Falcone and Penguin, they include much more. Each issue has a thread with Gordon in prison. This issue in particular with Gordon meeting up with James Jr., who can easily break into Blackgate just by bribing the right guards, and have a chat with his dad and tell his dad that he's going to break him out. And his dad says, I don't want to be broken out. And he says, oh, I know you're going to want to be broken out next week or tomorrow night or something. So I'm real eager to see what's going to happen tomorrow night. What's the twist there? Is something going to change Gordon's mind? Is James Jr. right or wrong? Love that stuff. And then each issue has some more of Red Robin and that girl. I know she becomes Bluebird, and I've lost her name. It's a name that sounds like a first name. Harper Row. I should remember it, because Harper Row, it's a book publisher, Harper and Row, I think. That must be where they originally got the name. Given that Scott Snyder, who created her, is a literary author before he was a comic book writer, I bet that's where he got the name Harper Row. We've also, in just this issue, we've got just a little bit more Stephanie Brown on the last page, with kind of a cliffhanger there of her father saying, I know she's going to come to us. There is kind of a weird thing where you get a last page cliffhanger to not have it addressed in either of the next two issues. Stephanie Brown does not return in these two issues. Is a little bit of a weird thing. I think you can get away with it in a weekly, but it would have been nice to have a little more progression on Stephanie Brown in the next issue, since we were teased about it in the last panel of the last page. Yeah, and I'm becoming a Red Robin fan through this, and I'm really interested in the developing relationship between him and Harper Row. I hope they really go places with that, and maybe that it spreads out beyond the Batman Eternal books into maybe a book of their own. Red Robin and Bluebird. There you go. That has a nice ring to it. Bluebird and Red Robin. Birds of a feather. And in this issue, on the first and last page, we have dark doings with magic in Arkham Asylum. Now, this kind of makes the Joker's daughter, who I've just heard people talk about, other than in Eternal. I think she's only appeared in a few places, but they're upping her role, because I think she's now in the new Suicide Squad. I didn't think she was a magic-based character at all, but now she's somehow involved with mystical, magical doings going on in Arkham Asylum, which is the main focus on this issue, 15, drawn by Dustin Nguyen. Do you pronounce it Nguyen? Nguyen? I don't know. I really like Dustin's artwork, except that his Lieutenant Barge doesn't look anything like he does in anyone else's version. And it's actually a wonderful artwork for this moody, shadowy Arkham taken over by evil mystical forces kind of story that we get. But it does get kind of looser and sort of inkier and scratchier the further we go into the book. I don't know if that's on purpose or more that he was getting more rushed. But I at that point I felt I've just gone off on a sideline because I was really going to discuss things plot-wise. But at that point I felt that that the colorist could have done more to make these scenes work a little better. Maybe not fair to put that on the colorist, but it's generally nice colors, but there could have been, I don't know, something more done with the color, I felt. Yeah, like that, this page in particular, it's a lot of, I don't know, I think color could have saved that page more. So, but anyway, I wasn't too thrilled to see that this issue was going to go back to that storyline, and the timing totally doesn't work, because we switch back and forth between things that are happening now and the Spectre Batwing storyline, which clearly is happening at least 2 or 3 days ago, if not a week ago. But there's no indication of that. In fact, at one point it says Arkham Underground later, after a scene with Batman. Although the scene with Batman is actually out of order too, because it's before Bard and Batman have had their plan and their falling apart. There's even a scene of them shaking hands. It's like the first time they've met. So that's odd also. So we have a mix of things that are happening now, as we know it from the other books, and then things that are happening in the past, but they don't indicate that some are past, some are now. Like there's a lot, or a little bit of the Red Robin Harper Row plot, and that would be happening now, days after the events in Arkham. But all it said, we've got on the top of the page this nice picture of a really creepy bombed out Arkham, and then at the bottom we've got Red Robin, and it just says meanwhile over the Pacific Ocean. Anyway, I didn't think of it, but so Joshua Hayes pointed out that this issue should have just focused on the Arkham storyline, because it's a powerful, creepy horror story, and then it's weird to jump out of that in the same sort of artwork to the Red Robin storyline, for instance, and for that scene with Bard. So, and we also have a very quick nod to the plot thread of Batgirl in Rio, who now meets Batwoman. That whole part in Rio, it's a real flop, I'm afraid, so far. It just feels random and forced, and so far pointless. I'm sure they're aiming her towards something. Now they're aiming her and Batwoman and Red Hood towards something down there in Rio, I guess. Yeah, so if you don't get distracted by the other plot threads and the timing, you do get I got very curious about what really is going on in Arkham. In this issue, there is no appearance by the Joker's daughter. And we get a reveal at the end of the person who is really behind it all, apparently, who calls himself Mr. Bygone. And I assumed that was some DC villain that I'd never heard of. But Joshua Hayes said, no, it's a brand new person. And I looked on the internet and apparently couldn't find anything. I was double checking, like any good reporter would do. Vicky Vale, learn from me. So, usually when you have a big last page reveal of someone, he's either someone you know but are surprised to see there, or they've been teasing that there is someone, but you don't know who it is yet, and at the end reveal him some way. But there's been no clues about someone, as far as I can remember, other than the Joker's daughter and just general creepiness going on down there. So that, I feel, was a little bit of a misstep. But overall, 3 very enjoyable issues, enjoyable art, decent writing, little gaps here and there, little problems with timelines. But yeah, it seems on track. There was a few issues, 4 or 5 issues back where there was some shakiness and a little bit of nervousness. We've jumped on this weekly thing, and what if it's just going to go south? But it seems to be moving mostly from strength to strength, and I'm really pleased where it's going so far. And yeah, what else? Yeah, just having a good time picking at it, though. I think that's also maybe a weekly book is more prone to be picked at. It's fresher in your mind, and you're tracking it more closely. I think this is the one to read in single issues. Obviously, trades will still be somewhat fun, but if you haven't started it, well, you wouldn't have made it to the end of this video with all the spoilers. But I'll say it anyway, and then maybe I'll say it somewhere else. If you haven't started yet, and you can somehow pick up all the single issues, hop onto it. You could probably hop in here and pick up enough as you go along, and then maybe backfill the back issues. I don't know. Most people probably don't have the patience for that. I'm still used to reading comic books. I got my start reading comic books where you always started in the middle of a story if you were reading Marvel comic books, and you had to figure out things as you went along. Summers, I think I said in my previous video, are really crazy. For instance, I would love to just take half a day off and read my comic books and relax. Tomorrow I'll take a half a day off, but it will be to go see my daughter in a play, and then go out with her and relatives, and then probably give my wife a big break so she can get things done. And then over the weekend there's all these activities planned, and my wife is working early mornings, and I'm the main child care person. And then next week I'm going to have to leave work early every day to pick my daughter and her friend up from camp. So I won't even have very much of a lunch break, and I'll been going go, go, go all day long. So I really hope, though, that I can find a way to do all the videos I want to on a weekly basis, particularly Batman Eternal, and particularly my general comic book thoughts, because it's like being in the habit of doing a diary. I feel bad every week when I haven't made entries into my video diary about what I've been reading. So doing those comic book thoughts, it seems silly, but it feels important to me personally, just because I like to do them. And I feel like disappointed in myself that I had to cover these in maybe less detail. Because I don't know, like, it's harder for me to review trades. I've hardly ever reviewed trade. It seems like a really hard thing to do. So reviewing a lot of issues together seems really hard. Although I have hopes of reviewing a whole bunch of issues of Detective together at once, because I haven't spoken about Detective the way I would like. Anyway, I'm glad that I have found this time to speak with you, and I hope to do some more. Bye-bye.